Having migrated to Australia when I was 8 years old, we've all had to learn how to adjust into the Australian society and culture. This wasn't just for my parents, it was for me as well. So, how did we do this? One of the biggest challenges we faced initially, you would assume, is a little bit of racism. This wasn't as prominent in Australia because it's such a multicultural and diverse country. One of the hardest things was being able to understand English because the accent is quite different. And I know I sound like that now, but it took me years to develop this and learn because I grew up there. Now, one of the things that you need to focus on when it comes to accent is learning the lingo. What that means is learning how Australians not only pronounce, but the kind of different words they use locally. For example, slippers might be called thongs, right? So there's a lot of local lingo that needs to be learned to be able to understand the culture and why these words are derived differently. The other thing is you have to pay respect to the history because it's such a new country. Now, Australia was invaded, right? So you really have to understand and respect the locals, which are the Aboriginal people. And they play a huge part being a part of the nation and the local custodians of land, which some land they still own. Now, one of the other things to focus on, which is quite important, is making sure you adjust to the lifestyle. It's not like every other country, it's a little bit more laid back. Now, you can go to a city like Sydney where it's more financially driven, so you do have longer working hours, but there's other parts of the countries which are much more relaxed. So depending on the kind of vibe you want, you would look to migrate into one of those cities. Now, Sydney is a lot more expensive, but a lot more opportunity available there. Melbourne's a very fast growing city. It's nearly at the same population as Sydney. But if you want a more laid back lifestyle, you'd go to somewhere like Queensland. Right, Perth, you've got a lot of mining over there. South Australia is really focusing heavy on technology. They also have good mining over there as well. Now, what is it that you're looking for and how do you adjust? One thing is to make sure when coming to Australia, what we see is you always go to your comfort zone. People that migrate here from South America or Asia or different parts of Europe that speak other languages, the one thing they do is always stick to the suburbs where they know people, which makes complete sense. But what that ends up doing is you start hanging around the same groups of people or similar like-minded people speaking a foreign language, which doesn't allow someone to develop their English skills or understand the culture. And we see this with a lot of clients that are potentially taking English classes to improve their English, but they're not surrounded by people in an environment where English is well spoken, because everyone in that environment speaks in their local language. So we recommend making sure you get yourself out there. It doesn't mean you have to live there, but interact with other people around in different parts of Sydney from different cultures, different backgrounds, and that will really allow everyone to understand and learn English at a better level. The other thing culturally is everyone loves to go out and have a drink, right? This is part of the culture. It's something that you can't really avoid. So if you don't drink, we recommend always making sure that you order something with ice and water, right? It makes other people feel like you're part of that culture and that you're trying to fit in. It doesn't mean you need to drink. A lot of people don't drink for health reasons or religious reasons, and that's not an issue at all. They respect that, but they also want to feel like you're here, you're out, you're socializing as a team and making sure that you fit into that culture. It's also good to travel around different parts of Australia because that allows for a greater understanding of which each city provides as their vibe, right? So, and it allows you to understand the Australian culture a little bit more because I feel like there's more Australian culture in places like Queensland or Gold Coast or even northern New South Wales like Byron Bay versus Sydney itself or Melbourne itself. Melbourne is a much more, I think, culturally aware city, a lot more color, a lot more vibrant, but it doesn't have the heritage or the harbour that Sydney has. Now, if you go to places like South Australia, they have stunning beaches, stunning sunsets, and you'll notice that it's not as developed, which I think provides for a better heritage experience. And it has great islands like Kangaroo Island to go and visit as well. South Australia is also greatly known for its wineries, so that's also a huge part of Australian culture, beers and wines really. So that's something that people know about and love to talk about as well. So making sure that you understand what they're interested in, talk about like-minded things so they know that you're interested in their culture and what they do. Make sure you focus yourself around people that speak good English so that way you can understand the local language or lingo and then travel as well, because that will allow a greater appreciation and understanding of what Australia is. If you have anything that I've missed, or if you think I should talk about something else, comment below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.